Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. When I say Jambo, you respond Jambo. 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 Good. That is Kiswahili, and it can help you, when moving around Nairobi. You tell somebody Jambo, it means hello. Madam Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, my friend Judge Isaac Lenaola, distinguished participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the people of Kenya, I extend a very warm and heartfelt welcome to Your Excellencies, honorable judges, and distinguished delegates. Welcome to Nairobi, a city that reflects the resilience, diversity, and generosity of our nation. And allow me to give you some tips around Nairobi. Nairobi is a great city. On the northern side, you have a whole canopy of very good Karura forest. And on the southern side, you have our national park. As Madam Chief Justice has said, find time and visit one of these places. At the Nairobi National Park, we have, it is almost 15 minutes from this hotel, so it's right in town. And there you will be able to see wildlife in their natural setting. If you happen to take a morning walk around the city, I need to warn you that sometimes the lions break away from the national park. So when you come across a lion, be careful. It is not, it's wild. It is true, Madam Chief Justice said I was almost 700 kilometers away from this city yesterday. But you all know the anxiety that greets somebody when you are supposed to appear before a judge, let alone judges. And so I had to make effort to appear here today, and especially when you have one of our own, Judge Isaac, as the chair. And I want to say that you couldn't get a better chair. Isaac is, was a heart's boy, because I was last week in his hometown. I don't know whether I call it hometown or home village. And I can confirm that he understands a few things about migration, because as a pastoralist, there's a lot of migration following livestock and everything in between. So I'm sure lessons from migration of livestock may have filtered into migration of human beings. But I thank the International Association of Refugees and Migration Judges, under the leadership of Isaac Lenaola, for choosing Nairobi to host this 14th World Congress. We gather at a defining moment in human history. The world faces a displacement crisis of unprecedented levels. More than 120 million people have been forced from their homes by conflict, persecution, economic hardship, and environmental disasters. These numbers are not mere statistics. They are a reminder of the urgency and significance of this year's theme, and that is protecting the integrity of refugee and migration systems. This conference calls us to reaffirm our shared responsibility to defend justice, uphold human dignity, and extend compassion. Refugees and migrants are entitled to rights enjoyed by other people. They are individuals whose lives have been disrupted by circumstances beyond their control, yet they carry resilience, they carry hope, and a strong desire to rebuild their lives. Kenya's tradition of hosting refugees is long-standing and distinguished. For more than 3 decades, our nation has opened its doors to those fleeing war, persecution, and sometimes famine. Today, nearly 580,000 refugees and asylum seekers call Kenya home, one of the world's largest refugee population. This reflects not only our generosity, but our unwavering belief in the principles of humanity and solidarity. Our approach has consistently been anchored in international law. Kenya is party to the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, its 1967 Protocol, and the 1969 OAU Refugee Convention. In 2021, we enacted the Refugee Act, guaranteeing refugees the right to work, to move freely, and to access services, and protecting them from refoulement, as is the case in many other parts of the world. This progressive legal framework reflects our belief that refugees should not live indefinitely in camps, but as active participants in their host societies. Early this year, we launched the Shirika Plan. Shirika meaning cooperation in Kiswahili, and this was spoken to by the representative of the UN. This visionary program seeks to transform refugee camps into integrated settlements, where refugees and host communities can live, work, and prosper together. It is a bold shift from encampment to empowerment. The Shirika Plan aligns with the Global Compact on Refugees and embodies the African Union's commitment to African solutions for African challenges. It promotes self-reliance for refugees and development for host communities as a genuine model for shared progress and sustainable solidarity. Kenya continues to lead in regional diplomacy, recognizing that peace remains the most durable solution for displaced populations. Our efforts in South Sudan, Somalia, and the Horn of Africa, and the Democratic Republic of Congo reflect our belief that regional peace is essential for both regional stability, development, and prosperity. Through frameworks such as the 2017 Nairobi Declaration on Durable Solutions for Somali Refugees, Kenya has advocated for shared responsibility and collective action, including voluntary repatriation where conditions permit, local integration where feasible, and resettlement to those requiring special protection where necessary. Refugee protection is a global obligation, and no single nation can shoulder it alone. If Kenya's open door policy reflects our heart, then the rule of law is the backbone that sustains it. The judiciary plays a decisive role because often a single ruling determines whether a refugee is granted safety or returned to danger. This responsibility requires impartiality, diligence, and a human touch. Judges must ensure that claims are heard fairly and that states uphold their obligations under both domestic and international law. They also play a vital role in harmonizing the interpretation of refugee laws across different jurisdictions. Through cooperation and knowledge sharing, judges can develop a consistent global jurisprudence that ensures fairness no matter where the claim is heard. justice must not depend on geography or chance. Judicial independence is the bedrock of this system, where courts are free from political interference. They serve as safeguards against arbitrary action. They ensure that asylum procedures are credible, transparent, and just, and that justice is not only done, but seen to be done. This, in turn, fosters public confidence. Additionally, integrity in refugee and migration systems requires strong institutions and credible procedures. Every asylum seeker deserves timely and fair adjudication, access to legal counsel, and the right to appeal. These are the foundations of justice. Fair procedures build public trust. They ensure that genuine refugees receive protection, while those without valid claims are treated with dignity and returned lawfully. Without fairness, systems lose legitimacy, and they also lose public confidence. Credibility also demands adequate resources and skilled personnel. Overburdened systems become vulnerable to abuse. Kenya is therefore strengthening the Department of Refugee Services and ensuring documentation, data sharing, and cross-border cooperation to support efficient and consistent decision-making. But as you are all aware, evidence and credibility remain major challenges in refugee adjudication. Claims often lack documentation, and applicants may be traumatized or fearful, making it difficult for them to express themselves clearly or present their cases effectively. This is why training judges in trauma-informed interviewing and ensuring access to reliable country of origin information are essential. Judicial officers must be equipped to assess credibility fairly and consistently. Transparency and accountability are also essential. Governments must publish data, allow independent oversight, and communicate openly with citizens to strengthen public trust and counter misinformation and xenophobia. For those of us from Kenya, we know we have a huge debate going on now on matters public participation, informing the public, carrying the public along. And we have agreed that we are going to have a public participation law that is currently in Parliament. We got an advisory from the Supreme Court on the necessity to have a public participation law that makes sure that there is sufficient input from the public in a manner that is organized, in a manner that is orderly, so that we avoid unnecessary litigation and ensure that we carry the public along and we discharge our responsibilities of the requirements of citizens in a legal, orderly, and effective way. Distinguished delegates, the global displacement landscape is rapidly evolving. Climate change is now one of the most significant drivers of human mobility, with droughts, floods, and desertification uprooting millions across Africa and in many other parts of the world. Those displaced by climate shocks may fall outside traditional legal definitions, yet they remain deeply vulnerable. By 2050, climate change may displace more than 200 million people. Kenya has already seen families crossing borders due to not only conflict, but to hunger and environmental collapse. Our legal frameworks must therefore evolve to provide protection in such cases, whether through broader interpretation of existing law or complementary protection measures, even as we invest in climate resilience to address displacement at its source. Another challenge is the misuse of asylum systems. Some attempt to use asylum as a backdoor to migration, while some states manipulate refugee labels for political expediency. Both undermine integrity. Our response must be balanced by establishing rigorous verification systems to prevent abuse without undermining fairness for genuine applicants. Strengthening documentation, cross-border information sharing, and effective screening procedure is essential. Above all, we must not allow the actions of a few to erode protection for the many. Human trafficking and the smuggling of migrants are transnational crimes that prey on the vulnerability of refugees and undermine state authority over migration. Smugglers and traffickers exploit refugees, often subjecting them to abuse, forced labor, and other forms of exploitation. Kenya has aligned its laws with international standards, strengthened penalties, and enhanced cooperation with regional partners. Yet enforcement must go hand in hand with compassion. Victims of trafficking must not be treated as criminals. Our systems must recognize that trafficked persons may have valid protection claims and ensure that they receive justice and dignity. The digital age brings both promise and peril. Artificial intelligence can help streamline asylum processes, reduce backlogs, and improve access to justice. It can assist judges to rapidly analyze precedents and help asylum seekers understand procedures by translating documents into languages they understand. Yet, artificial intelligence also carries risks, including algorithmic bias and a lack of transparency. Over-reliance on automated systems could undermine fairness. Technology must therefore remain a servant of justice, not its master. Any use of artificial intelligence must be transparent, must be accountable, and subjected to human oversight. Refugee protection is, after all, at its core about human dignity, something no machine can replicate. Excellencies, honorable judges, the integrity of refugee and migration systems have profound implications for the legitimacy of our laws and the protocols designed to protect vulnerable groups such as refugees and migrants. Integrity ensures that the systems protect those in genuine need, resist manipulation, and commands the trust of both refugees and citizens. Without it, we risk the breakdown of asylum systems and the erosion of our shared humanity. Kenya is proud of its contribution in hosting refugees and in developing a very strong legal framework in this field. But we recognize our limits and call on the international community to share responsibility more equitably through financial support, resettlement opportunities, and technical cooperation. Host communities should not bear the burden alone. Solidarity is not charity, it is justice. And therefore, sharing the burden of refugees and asylum seekers and migrants is an act of solidarity and an act of justice. because such persons deserve the support and the assistance of the countries that they end up. As you deliberate on these issues over the next few days, I urge you to continue upholding fairness, courage, and independence in your decisions, and to balance between the aspects of asylum seekers and refugees that require adjudication out of persecution, running away from climate change effects, conflict, and many other areas. But there is a bigger element that is positive about migration. I will give you two examples. Today, as a country, we have signed bilateral labor agreements with many countries, including the last one with Germany and Austria. Last week, I was in Qatar and we were discussing migration, positive, orderly migration that helps share resources and also help build capacity in different parts of the world. As a result of migration, today we have close to 430,000 Kenyans in the last 2 years who are working outside Kenya. It is migration in a positive sense. And as a result of that increase of number of Kenyans working outside Kenya, we got $1 billion more from our diaspora remittances. And we are using it positively to build our country. So there are equally aspects, positive, very positive aspects of migration. This morning, I was having another conversation on migration. This month, we will be launching one of our largest infrastructure projects, dueling 175 kilometers of road from just outside Nairobi to a place called Mau Summit. And among the conversation I was having this morning is how we are going to bring in high-end engineers to work with our Kenyan engineers to build their capacity, because we are undertaking one of the largest projects ever undertaken in Kenya. And we need transfer of knowledge, transfer of technology, and how migration is going to support the transfer of knowledge, transfer of expertise into Kenya. So again, we have areas of very positive migration. And lastly, we made a policy decision as a country to eliminate visa requirements for people coming from our continent, that is in Africa, to facilitate greater movement of people, and with it, ideas, knowledge, expertise. And we are seeing a very positive trajectory on allowing people to move much more freely within our regions. In any case, slowly but surely, as they say, the world is becoming a global village. I sympathize with the people who believe that they can stop migration, because I don't think they will succeed. The thing we need to do is to make it organized, is to make it orderly, and to provide mechanisms like the ones you're discussing here today of how to make it better and how to safeguard the interests of those migrating, of the countries they go to, of the communities they will live in, and make it better. The Shirika plan that we launched a couple of months ago is transforming refugees from being a burden to the communities, to them working with the communities to forge enterprise, to do business together, and to leverage on the expertise and the knowledge and the efforts of the refugees in building the communities that hosts them. So again, there are very positive aspects, so that even as we consider the whole aspect of refugees and migrants, we must be careful not to criminalize the movement of people, because there are very positive elements as well. Let me conclude my remarks by saying, always remember that the decisions you make reverberate beyond the courtroom. They shape lives, preserve families, and safeguard the credibility of the international protection regime. Ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the 14th World Conference of the International Association of Refugee and Migration Judges officially open, and I thank you for your attention.